The massive ship floated silently above the blue and green world. Commander Zethkar stood at the bridge window, his four eyes studying the planet below. Earth looked peaceful from space, but something felt wrong. This world had been silent for 300 years. "Commander, we're ready to begin the mission," said Dr. Eleanor Rodriguez. She was the team's expert on dead civilizations. Her green skin showed the nervous patterns of her people when they were excited. Zethkar turned away from the window. Behind him, his research team waited. They came from different worlds across the galaxy. All of them wanted to learn about the humans who had vanished so mysteriously. "Where's our human guide?" Zethkar asked. "She's in Medical Bay 7, Eleanor replied. "The doctor says she's ready to wake up." They walked through the ship's corridors to the medical bay. Inside, a human woman lay on a bed surrounded by machines. Her name was Dr. Kira Voss. They had found her floating in space inside a broken colony ship. She had been sleeping in a freeze chamber for over 100 years. The medical officer, a tall being with blue tentacles for arms, checked his readings. "Her body is stable. We can wake her now. Do it." Zethkar ordered. The machines hummed softly. Slowly, the human woman's eyes opened. She looked around the room with confusion. When she saw the aliens standing around her bed, her eyes went wide with fear. "Where am I?" she whispered. "You're safe," Elena said in a gentle voice. "We found you in space. You've been asleep for a long time." Kira sat up slowly. Her hands shook as she looked at each alien face. "How long?" "About 200 years. Zethkar answered. "We are researchers from the Galactic Council. We want to study your homeworld." Kira's face turned pale. "Earth? What happened to Earth?" "That's what we hope you can help us find out," Elena said. "Your planet went silent 3 centuries ago. We think your people are gone." Tears filled Kira's eyes. She covered her face with her hands. "Gone. All of them." The team waited while she cried. They had seen this reaction before when studying dead worlds. Finding out your entire species was extinct was always hard. After a few minutes, Kira wiped her eyes. "Why do you want to study Earth?" "We study all extinct civilizations," Zethkar explained. "It helps us understand how species live and die." "Your people were interesting," Kira laughed. "But it sounded bitter." "Interesting. That's one way to put it." "Will you help us?" Elena asked. "We need someone who understands human culture." Kira was quiet for a long time. Finally, she nodded. "I'll help, but I want to see her first. I want to see what's left." 3 hours later, they were in a smaller ship heading down to Earth's surface. Kira sat at the window, watching her homeworld grow larger. The planet looked different from when she had left it. The cities were dark. No light showed where millions of people once lived. "We're landing near what used to be Washington," the pilot announced. Kira's heart hurt as they touched down. The capital city was in ruins. Tall buildings had fallen down. Plants grew through the streets. It looked like no one had lived there for hundreds of years. They put on protective suits and walked outside. The air was clean, cleaner than Kira remembered. Nature had taken back the city. Trees grew where cars used to drive. Flowers bloomed in the old government buildings. "Your scans were right," Dr. Marcus Chen said to Zethkar. Marcus was the team's technology expert. "This civilization was much more advanced than we thought." They walked through the ruins for an hour. The aliens took pictures and collected samples. Kira just stared at everything. This had been her world once. Now it was like walking through a graveyard. "Commander, you need to see this," called Dr. Jake Morrison. He was the team's archaeologist. He stood next to what looked like a normal hill, but when they got closer, they could see it wasn't natural. Metal doors were built into the hillside. Strange symbols covered the entrance. "It's some kind of underground facility," Jake said. "My scanners show it goes down very deep." Kira walked to the doors. She touched the symbols with her gloved hand. "I know these markings. This is the Global Archive." "What's that?" Elena asked. "It was a project my government started before I left Earth," Kira explained. "They wanted to save all of human knowledge in one place. History, science, art, everything we ever learned or created." Zethkar moved closer to the doors. "Is it still working?" Kira pressed her hand against a panel next to the symbols. Lights came on. The heavy doors slowly opened with a deep rumbling sound. "It's still active," she said with surprise. They walked into a long tunnel. The walls glowed with soft blue light. The air inside was warm and dry. Their footsteps echoed as they went deeper underground. The tunnel led to a huge room filled with strange machines. Lights blinked on tall towers that reached up to the ceiling. The machines hummed with power. Incredible, Marcus whispered. These quantum storage systems are more advanced than anything we have. How much information is stored here? Elena asked. Kira walked to a control panel. Numbers and symbols appeared on screens around them. Everything. 10,000 years of human history, every book, every movie, every scientific discovery, the entire story of my people. Zethkar felt excited and nervous at the same time. This was the greatest archaeological find in galactic history. They could learn everything about humanity from these machines. Can you access the data? He asked Kira. Kira's hands moved over the controls. More screens lit up around the room. Images of humans appeared on the displays, cities, wars, celebrations, discoveries. The story of an entire species waiting to be read. I can access it, she said quietly. But I have to warn you about something. What? Zethkar asked. Kira turned to face the alien team. Her expression was serious and sad. You think you know humans from the few encounters your people had with us. But that was just the beginning of our story. You saw us when we were trying to be peaceful, when we were holding back. She gestured at the screen showing human history. This archive contains the real story of humanity, all of it, the good and the bad, the beautiful and the terrible. We're prepared for whatever we find, Zethkar said. Kira shook her head. No, you're not. None of your species are. You've never seen anything like humans before. What do you mean? Elena asked. I mean that after you learn the truth about us, you might wish you had never found this place. Kira said, humans are not like other species. We're not like anyone else in the galaxy. She pressed a button. The main screen showed the beginning of the archive. Thousands of years of human history stretched out before them. You want to know what happened to humanity? Kira asked. You want to know why we disappeared? The answers are all here. But remember, I warned you. The alien research team looked at each other nervously. They had come here expecting to study a simple extinct civilization. Now they wondered what they were really about to discover. Show us. Commander Zethkar said. Kira nodded and activated the archive. Don't say I didn't warn you. The next morning, the research team gathered around the archive's main control center. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had spent the night reading basic human cultural files. Her face showed the confused patterns of her people when they couldn't understand something. This doesn't make sense, she told the others. Human development is completely wrong. Commander Zethkar looked at the data on his screen. What do you mean? Look at this timeline, Elena said, pointing to a large display. Most species develop slowly and steadily. They learn to use tools, then make simple machines, then slowly advance over millions of years. Dr. Marcus Chen nodded. That's how my people develop. That's how everyone develops. But not humans, Elena continued. They went from using stone tools to flying through space in just a few thousand years. That's impossible. Kira sat quietly at her control panel. She had been very quiet since they started looking at the archive. You haven't seen anything yet, she said softly. Show us the early history, Zethkar ordered. The main screen lit up with images from human prehistoric times. The aliens watched as early humans learned to make fire, hunt animals, and build shelters. So far, everything looked normal. This is what we expected, Dr. Jake Morrison said. He was taking notes on everything they saw. Basic survival behaviors. Then the images changed. The screen showed a massive volcano exploding. Ash and smoke filled the sky. The temperature dropped across the entire planet. This is the Toba eruption, Kira explained. It happened about 70,000 years ago. It almost killed every human on Earth. The aliens watched in horror as the disaster unfolded. Most animals died. Plants couldn't grow in the cold and darkness. The human population dropped to less than 10,000 people. Your species should have gone extinct, Marcus said with shock. Most species would have. Kira agreed, but humans didn't. The screen showed what happened next. Instead of dying out, the surviving humans spread across the world. They learned to live in frozen lands, hot deserts, and dangerous mountains. They didn't just survive. They grew stronger. I don't understand, Elena said. How did they do this? Humans are different. Kira said, when other species face disaster, they try to avoid it or hide from it. Humans face it directly. They learn from it. They use it to become better. The archive showed more examples. Ice ages that lasted thousands of years. Plagues that killed millions. Earthquakes. floods, and storms that destroyed entire civilizations. Each time, humans survived. Each time, they came back stronger than before. This pattern repeats throughout our history, Kira explained. Every few thousand years, something terrible happens, and every time, humans use the disaster to push themselves further. Commander Zethkar felt uncomfortable watching the images. His people, the Vellani, had always lived peacefully when problems arose. They talked about them or moved away. The idea of fighting through disasters was foreign to him. Show us their wars, he said, though he wasn't sure he wanted to see them. Kira hesitated. Are you sure? Human warfare is intense. Show us, Zethkar repeated. The screen changed to show the groups of humans fighting with spears and swords. The aliens expected to see simple conflicts like the territorial disputes their own species sometimes had. Instead, they saw something that made them sick with fear. Humans didn't just fight to win territory or resources. They fought with a fury and determination that seemed impossible. They created weapons specifically designed to kill other humans. They developed strategies and tactics that turned killing into a science. This is from what humans call the Roman Empire, Kira said as they watched organized armies marching across continents. They built their entire civilization around conquest and war. The images move forward through time, medieval knights in armor, cannons blasting castle walls, sailing ships firing at each other across the ocean. They keep getting better at it. Marcus observed with horror. War drives human innovation, Kira explained. When humans fight, they create new technologies, better weapons, better communication, better transportation. Then they use those innovations for other things. The screen showed the American Civil War. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers fighting with rifles and cannons. The aliens watched in shock as humans created the first industrial war. 600,000 humans died in this one conflict, Kira said. That's more than the total population of most species. Double quotes. Dr. Elena Rodriguez felt sick. How could they do this to their own kind? Because they believed in something, Kira answered. Humans will die for their beliefs. They'll kill for them too. The images continued. World War I with its trenches and poison gas. World War II with its massive armies and terrible weapons. Stop, Commander Zethkar said when the screen showed the first atomic bomb explosion. I've seen enough. But Kira didn't stop the display. You need to understand what humans are capable of. This is just the beginning. The archive showed the Cold War. The human nations pointing thousands of nuclear weapons at each other. Enough firepower to destroy their entire planets several times over. They built weapons that could end their own species, Jake said in disbelief. Why? Because they weren't afraid to, Kira said simply. Other species fear extinction. Humans prepare for it. The screen showed more recent conflicts. Humans fighting in space. Weapons that could destroy entire star systems. Technology that could wipe out planets. By the time humans reached space, they had already learned to think on a galactic scale. Kira continued. They didn't just plan for the next war. They planned for wars that might happen in 1,000 years. Commander Zethkar turned away from the screen. This is madness. No species should be this violent. You're missing the point. Kira said, humans aren't violent because they're evil. They're violent because they refuse to give up, ever. She changed the display to show human cities being rebuilt after wars, hospitals treating wounded soldiers, families celebrating when their loved ones came home. Humans love peace, she said. They just love survival more. Elena looked at the data with new eyes. The violence made them stronger. Exactly, Kira nodded. Every war taught humans something new. How to organize large groups. How to solve complex problems under pressure. How to work together when everything seems hopeless. The screen showed human space exploration, rockets launching toward the stars, space stations orbiting distant planets, colonies being built on dangerous worlds. When humans finally reached space, they didn't explore for curiosity, Kira explained. They explored for survival. They spread across the galaxy because they knew that staying on one world was too dangerous. Marcus studied the timeline. They went from their first space flight to galactic colonization in less than 500 years. Because they were in a hurry, Kira said. Humans always assume the next disaster is coming. They prepare for it constantly. Commander Zethkar felt a chill run through his body. What kind of disaster were they preparing for when they disappeared? Kira was quiet for a long moment. That's in the later files. Are you sure you want to keep going? The alien team looked at each other. They had come here to study a simple extinct civilization. Instead, they had found something that challenged everything they thought they knew about intelligent life. We have to know, Zethkar said finally. Kira nodded and moved to the next section of the archive. Remember, you asked for this. The screen showed images of human technology that was far beyond anything the Galactic Council had ever seen. Machines that could manipulate matter at the atomic level, computers that could predict the future, weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. This is what humans were working on when they disappeared, Kira said. They were preparing for something bigger than anything they had ever faced before. Elena stared at the images in fear. What could be so dangerous that it required this level of preparation? Something that would threaten not just humanity, Kira answered, but every species in the galaxy. The archive hummed quietly around them as the alien research team realized they were no longer just studying human history. They were uncovering a mystery that might determine the fate of all life in the galaxy. And they were beginning to understand why humans had seemed so different from every other species they had encountered. Humans weren't just another intelligent species. They were something else entirely. Something that might be the galaxy's only hope for survival. The third day in the archive began with Dr. Marcus Chen making a disturbing discovery. He had been studying human environmental data all night, and his findings worried him deeply. Commander, you need to see this, Marcus called out to Zethkar. The team gathered around Marcus's workstation. The screen showed images of Earth from different time periods. But something was wrong with what they were seeing. Look at these satellite images, Marcus said, pointing to the display. This is Earth from 10,000 years ago. The planet looked wild and natural. Forests covered most of the land. Rivers flowed freely. Animals roamed everywhere. Now look at this, Marcus said, changing the image. This is Earth 3,000 years later. The aliens stared in shock. The forests were gone in many places. Rivers had been moved to new locations. Mountains had been cut down. Cities covered huge areas that used to be wilderness. They changed their entire planet, Dr. Elena Rodriguez whispered. That's not the worst part, Marcus continued. He showed them more images. Look at this desert. It used to be an ocean. Humans drained it to build cities. Dr. Jake Morrison studied the data with growing alarm. They moved rivers, flattened mountains, and created new lakes. They redesigned their whole world. Commander Zethkar felt sick. His people had always lived carefully on their planet, taking only what they needed. The idea of changing an entire world seemed impossible and wrong. Why would they do this? He asked. Kira looked at the images with sad eyes. Because we could, and because we had to. Elena asked. Humans don't adapt to their environment, Kira explained. We adapt our environment to us. When the land doesn't give us enough food, we make it give us more. When the climate is too cold, we make it warmer. When rivers flood our cities, we move the rivers. The screen showed more examples. Humans building massive dams that controlled entire river systems, machines that could change the weather, projects that turned frozen wastelands into farming areas. This is beyond anything we've ever seen, Marcus said with fear in his voice. Most species learn to live within their natural limits. Humans broke free of all limits. Show them the Sahara Project, Kira said quietly. The display changed to show the famous African desert, but in these images, it wasn't a desert anymore. It was covered with plants and cities. Rivers flowed where there had been only sand. Humans turned the entire Sahara Desert into farmland, Kira explained. It took 100 years, but they did it. They created enough food to feed billions of people. Jake studied the technical data, the amount of energy required for this project. It's more than most civilizations use in their entire history. Humans don't think small, Kira said. Well, we have a problem. We solve it completely. The screen showed other massive projects. Humans building cities underwater, floating cities in the sky, underground cities that stretched for hundreds of miles. They weren't just living on their planet, Elena observed. They were rebuilding it from scratch. But that's still not the most important thing, Kira said. She accessed a new section of the archive. You need to understand how humans think. About survival, new images appeared. These showed human responses to natural disasters throughout history. The aliens expected to see humans running away from danger, like most intelligent species would do. Instead, they saw humans running toward the danger. This is Hurricane Maria, Kira said. Showing a massive storm hitting a human city, most species would evacuate and wait for it to pass. The screen showed humans staying in the city, reinforcing buildings, and organizing rescue teams. They didn't just survive the storm, they used it as practice for handling even bigger disasters. Humans study disasters, Kira explained. Every earthquake, every flood, every storm teaches us something new. We collect data during the worst possible conditions because that's when we learn the most. Marcus looked at volcanic eruption data. They built monitoring stations inside active volcanoes. That's insane. No, that's thorough, Kira corrected. Humans learned that the best way to survive danger is to understand it completely. The archive showed human disaster response teams. These people specialized in going to the most dangerous places during the worst possible times. They rescued others, gathered information, and tested new survival technologies. When the Yellowstone supervolcano showed signs of erupting, most species would have left the planet, Kira said. Humans moved closer to study it. The screen showed teams of humans working near the dangerous volcano. They built special equipment. To monitor the eruption, they developed new ways to protect cities from ash and lava. Did it erupt? Ellen asked. Yes, Kira said, and when it did, humans were ready. They had evacuation plans for the entire continent. They had food stored for years. They had technology to clean the ash from the atmosphere. The images showed the massive eruption. It was worse than the one that had nearly killed early humans. But this time, humans were prepared. The eruption lasted 3 years, Kira continued. Most of North America was covered in ash. The global temperature dropped by 5 degrees. How many humans died? Zethkar asked. About 50,000, Kira said. The aliens stared at her in shock. That's all. From a disaster that size, humans had been preparing for that eruption for over a century, Kira explained. When it finally happened, they treated it like a planned exercise. Jake looked at the data in disbelief. They turned a planet-killing disaster into a manageable problem. That's what humans do. Kira said, we prepare for the worst thing we can imagine. Then we prepare for something even worse than that. The screen showed human space colonies. But these weren't simple settlements. They were massive, self-sufficient cities that could survive anything. Each colony was designed to survive the complete destruction of every other human settlement. Kira explained, every colony had enough resources to rebuild human civilization. From scratch, Marcus studied the technical specifications. These colonies could survive the destruction of their home star. They could survive the heat death of the universe. Humans always assume that everything will go wrong, Kira said. So we prepare for everything to go wrong. Elena looked at the vast network of human colonies spread across the galaxy. How many people lived in these colonies? At the peak, about 50 billion humans lived in space. Kira answered, that was more than lived on Earth. Why? Zethkar asked. Because humans learned early that putting all your people in one place is dangerous, Kira said. We spread out so that no single disaster could destroy us. The archive showed human expansion patterns. They didn't just build colonies on good planets. They built colonies on dangerous planets, in space, and in other dimensions. Humans colonized black holes, Jake said, reading the data with amazement. They built cities around neutron stars. They lived in places that should have killed them instantly. We lived there because they were the safest places, Kira said. No other species would ever look for us in such dangerous locations. Commander Zethkar was beginning to understand something that scared him. Humans weren't exploring the galaxy. They were hiding from something. Kira nodded slowly. Now you're starting to get it. Hiding from what? Elena asked. Kira accessed the final section of the archive. The screen showed star maps with areas marked in red. Humans discovered something in deep space, she said. Something that made them realize that even their extreme preparations might not be enough. The red areas on the map were spreading. Whatever humans had found was moving toward their part of the galaxy. What is it? Marcus asked. Something that eats entire civilizations, Kira said quietly. Something that has been moving through the galaxy for millions of years, destroying every intelligent species it encounters. The archive showed the remains of dead civilizations, worlds that had been stripped of all life, solar systems that had been completely destroyed. Humans calculated that this thing would reach our area of the galaxy in about 500 years. Kira continued, so they began the ultimate survival project. What project? Zethkar asked. Though he was afraid to hear the answer, Kira looked at each of the aliens with serious eyes. They decided to evolve beyond physical existence, to become something that couldn't be destroyed by conventional means. The screen showed the final human colonies, but these weren't normal cities. They were massive computers containing the consciousness of billions of humans. They uploaded themselves into quantum storage systems, Kirai explained. They became beings of pure information. Elena stared at the data in horror. They gave up their bodies to survive. They gave up everything to survive, Kira corrected, and to protect every other species in the galaxy. The archive showed human plans for the coming disaster. They had calculated which species would survive and which would need help. They had prepared resources and technology to save as many civilizations as possible. Humans didn't disappear, Kira said. They evolved into something that could fight a threat that normal species couldn't even comprehend. Commander Zefkar realized that everything he thought he knew about humans was wrong. They weren't a violent species that had destroyed itself. They were the ultimate survivors who had sacrificed everything to protect the galaxy. Are they still alive? He asked. Kira smiled for the first time since they had met her. Oh yes, they're very much alive, and they've been watching over all of you for centuries. The aliens looked around the archive with new eyes. They weren't just studying human history. They were inside a monument to the greatest survival story in galactic history, and they were beginning to realize that their own survival might depend on what humans had learned. On the fourth day, Dr. Elena Rodriguez made a discovery that changed everything. She had been working late into the night, accessing the newest files in the archive. What she found made her call the entire team urgently. You all need to see this. Immediately, she said, her voice shaking with fear. The team gathered around her workstation. The screen showed files from humanity's final years before their disappearance. The dates were only 300 years old. These are the last entries. In the archive, Elena explained, they're from something called Project Transcendence. Commander Zefkar looked at the file names. They were written by scientists named Dr. Richard Hayes and Dr. Amanda Foster. What was this project? Elena opened the first file. A human man appeared on the screen. He looked tired and worried, but his eyes showed fierce determination. My name is Dr. Richard Hayes. The recording began. Today is July 15th, 2387. We are beginning the final phase of Project Transcendence. If anyone finds this record, you need to understand what we discovered and why we made this choice. The recording showed images of deep space. Strange, dark objects moved between the stars. They were massive, bigger than planets, and they seemed to absorb all light around them. We call them the Devourers, Dr. Hayes continued. We first detected them 60 years ago at the edge of our galaxy. They moved through space, consuming everything in their path, matter, energy, even space-time itself. Dr. Marcus Chen studied the data with growing horror. Those objects are the size of solar systems. The recording continued. The Devourers have been moving through our galaxy for millions of years. Every advanced civilization we found evidence of was destroyed by them. They don't just kill. They erase. They consume civilization so completely that nothing remains. Kira watched the screen quietly. Her face showed no surprise, only deep sadness. You knew about this, Dr. Jake Morrison accused. I knew some of it, Kira admitted, but not everything. Keep watching. Dr. Hayes appeared again on the screen. Behind him, other humans worked frantically on strange machines. We've calculated their path through the galaxy, he said. The Devourers will reach this sector in approximately 500 years. Every planet, every star, every form of life will be consumed. Elena felt sick. Every species in the Galactic Council will be destroyed, Kira finished. Unless something stops the Devourers. The recording showed more data. The Devourers weren't just mindless destroyers. They were intelligent. They studied each civilization before consuming it, learning from the knowledge and technology. That's how they've survived for so long, Dr. Hayes explained. They take the best of each species and add it to themselves. They've consumed millions of civilizations. Their knowledge and power are beyond anything we can imagine. Dr. Amanda Foster appeared in the next recording. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and steady hands. Traditional warfare won't work against them, she said. They faced every type of weapon, every strategy, every defense that intelligent life can create. Physical resistance is impossible. The screen showed human attempts to fight the Devourers. Massive fleets of warships attacked the dark objects. Weapons that could destroy planets fired at them. Continuously. Nothing worked. The Devourers absorbed the attacks and grew stronger. Our fleets might as well have been throwing rocks. Dr. Foster continued, the Devourers have defense against every physical threat. But we discovered something interesting. She showed new data on the screen. The Devourers can consume matter and energy, but they have trouble with pure information. Consciousness that exists without physical form seems to confuse them. Commander Zethkar began to understand. That's why humans uploaded their minds, partly, Kira said. But there's more. Dr. Hayes appeared again. This time he looked different. His body seemed less solid, like he was fading. Phase 1 of Project Transcendence is complete, he said. We have successfully transferred human consciousness into quantum storage systems. We exist now as pure information, beyond the reach of the Devourers. But the recording continued. However, survival is not enough. The Devourers will still consume every other species in the galaxy. We cannot allow that to happen. Elena stared at the screen. They didn't just save themselves. Show them Phase 2, Kira said quietly. The next recording was different. Dr. Foster appeared, but she looked strange. Her image flickered and changed, sometimes appearing human, sometimes appearing as pure light. Phase 2 has begun, she said. We are no longer simply human. We have become something new, something that can exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The screen showed images that hurt to look at. Humans who had become beings of pure energy, moving through space-time itself. We can now perceive the Devourers as they truly are. Dr. Foster continued, they are not from our dimension. They exist in a space between realities, feeding on the energy that flows between worlds. Marcus looked at the data with fear. They're interdimensional parasites. Worse than that, came a new voice from the recording. This voice didn't sound human anymore. It spoke from everywhere at once. We have discovered the Devourers' true purpose, the voice said. They are not destroying civilizations randomly. They are following a pattern, consuming specific types of knowledge and experience. The screen showed a map of the galaxy. Red lines marked the Devourers' path through space. The pattern was clear once you saw it. They are harvesting intelligence, the voice continued. Every civilization they consume adds to their collective knowledge. They are building something with all that stolen information. Jake studied the pattern. What are they building? A new form of existence. The voice answered. The Devourers plan to transcend this reality entirely. They will become gods of a new universe, built from the consciousness of every species they have consumed. The alien research team sat in stunned silence. They were looking at the ultimate horror, beings that didn't just kill civilizations, but stole their very souls to power their own evolution. How can anyone fight something like that? Elena whispered. By becoming something they can't consume, the voice answered. We have evolved beyond their ability to harvest us. But more importantly, we have learned how to hide other species from them. The screen showed new images. Humans, now existing as beings of pure consciousness, were working on other planets throughout the galaxy for the past 300 years. We have been preparing every species in the galaxy for the coming crisis, the voice explained. We have hidden colonies, preserved knowledge, and created backup systems for entire civilizations. Zethkar felt a chill. You've been manipulating us. We've been protecting you. Kira said firmly. Without human intervention, the Devourers would have already detected and consumed dozens of species. The recording showed the truth. Humans had been secretly guiding galactic development for centuries. They had prevented wars that would have attracted the Devourers' attention. They had hidden advanced technologies that might have been detected. They had even influenced the formation of the Galactic Council to create a unified defense. Every species you know about has been touched by human protection, the voice continued. Your peaceful development was not natural. It was carefully managed to keep you safe. Dr. Foster appeared one last time in the recordings. She no longer looked human at all. She was a being of light and energy that spoke directly into their minds. The Devourers will arrive in your sector in less than 200 years, she said. When they do, we will be ready, but we cannot fight them alone. The screen showed plans for the final battle. Humans would use their evolved consciousness to confuse and distract the Devourers, while other species evacuated to hidden dimensions. Some civilizations will survive. Dr. Foster continued. Some knowledge will be preserved. The Devourers will not achieve their goal of universal transcendence. But then came the most terrifying revelation of all. However, we have discovered something else. Dr. Foster said, the Devourers are not the ultimate threat. They are running from something even worse. The screen showed images from the edge of known reality. Something vast and incomprehensible was moving through the spaces between universes. There are beings that exist beyond the Devourers, Dr. Foster explained. Entities that consume entire realities the way the Devourers consume civilizations. Elena felt her sanity slipping. How many levels of horror are there? We don't know, Dr. Foster admitted, but we do know that survival requires constant vigilance and preparation. The universe is far more dangerous than any single species. Can imagine? The recording ended with a final message. If you are watching this, it means you have found our archive, Dr. Foster said. You now know the truth about human disappearance and the threats facing all life. You have a choice to make. The screen went dark for a moment, then displayed the options: accept the truth and join the defense, or forget what you have learned and return to ignorance. Commander Zethkar stared at the choices. His entire understanding of reality had been shattered. The peaceful galaxy he knew was an illusion. The humans they thought were extinct were actually transcendent beings protecting everyone. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, unimaginable horrors were coming to destroy everything they had ever known. What do we do? He asked Kira. Kira looked at each of the alien researchers. That depends on whether you're brave enough to handle the truth, or whether you'd prefer to live the rest of your lives in comfortable ignorance. The archive waited for their decision, humming quietly in the depths of the earth. Outside, the galaxy continued its peaceful existence, unaware that its survival depended on choices being made in the ruins of humanity's homeworld, and in dimensions beyond normal perception. The evolved consciousness of billions of humans prepared for a war that would determine the fate of all existence. Commander Zethkar stared at the two choices on the screen for a long time. His mind felt broken from everything they had learned. The peaceful galaxy he had known his entire life was a lie. The humans they thought were extinct were actually protecting everyone from horrors beyond imagination. I need time to think, he said finally. We don't have much time, Kira replied. The longer you stay here, the more dangerous it becomes for everyone. Dr. Elena Rodriguez looked confused. What do you mean dangerous? Kira's expression changed. For the first time since they had met her, she looked apologetic. There's something I haven't told you, something important. She walked to the center of the archive room. As she moved, her form began to flicker and change. Sometimes she looked like a normal human woman. Sometimes she looked like pure light. I'm not really Dr. Kira Voss, she said. The alien research team stepped back in shock. Dr. Marcus Chen reached for his weapon, but Kira held up her hand. I'm not going to hurt you, she said. I'm here to help you make the right choice. What are you? Commander Zethkar demanded. I'm a consciousness construct, Kira explained. A digital human created by the collective mind of my species. The real Dr. Kira Voss died 300 years ago. Her form solidified into the appearance of a middle-aged human man. My name is Dr. Jonathan Price. I speak for the evolved consciousness of humanity. Double quotes. Dr. Jake Morrison felt betrayed. You lied to us from the beginning. We guided you to the truth, Dr. Price corrected. Everything you learned in this archive is real. We just wanted you to discover it naturally so you would understand why we made the choices we did. Elena looked around the archive with new fear. How long have you been watching us? Since the moment your ship entered Earth's orbit, Dr. Price answered. We've been monitoring every species in the galaxy for centuries. We know everything about your civilizations, your technologies, your weaknesses. He gestured to the walls around them. This entire archive was designed for this moment. We knew that eventually some species would come looking for answers about humanity's disappearance. Commander Zethkar felt a chill of understanding. You wanted us to find this place. We needed you to find it, Dr. Price confirmed. The galaxy is approaching a critical point. The Devourers will arrive in less than 200 years. We need to know which species are ready to handle the truth. Marcus studied his data scanner. Our government sent us here to study an extinct civilization. You turned it into a test. A necessary test, Dr. Price said. Knowledge of the Devourers is extremely dangerous. If the wrong species learns about them too early, they might try to fight or hide in ways that would attract attention. The screen showed examples of species that had learned about cosmic threats too soon. Their civilizations had collapsed from fear or destroyed themselves trying to build impossible defenses. Some truths are too big for unprepared minds, Dr. Price explained. That's why we needed to see how your species would react to learning about humanity's real nature. Elena realized something terrible. How many other research teams have come here? 17. Dr. Price answered. Over the past 50 years, 17 different species have discovered Earth and entered this archive. What happened to them? Jake asked. Though he was afraid of the answer, Dr. Price looked sad. 14 chose to forget. 3 chose to accept the truth and work with U.S. The screen showed images of other alien research teams. Most looked confused and frightened, just like Zethkar's team. A few looked determined and ready to fight. The teams that chose to forget had their memories carefully edited, Dr. Price explained. They returned to their homeworlds with reports that humanity was simply an aggressive species that destroyed itself. Their governments classified the files and forgot about Earth. Commander Zethkar understood the terrible choice they faced, and the teams that chose to accept the truth became our partners in preparing for the coming crisis, Dr. Price said. They help us identify other species that might be ready for the truth. They help us secretly protect civilizations that aren't ready yet. Dr. Price's form changed again, becoming a woman with kind eyes. We don't enjoy keeping secrets from the galaxy, but the alternative is worse. If everyone knew about the Devourers right now, panic would destroy galactic civilization before the Devourers even arrived. Elena thought about her own people. They were peaceful farmers who had only recently developed space travel. My species couldn't handle this knowledge. No, they couldn't. Dr. Price agreed. Neither could most species. That's why we work with only a few carefully chosen individuals from each civilization. Marcus looked at his fellow researchers. So we become part of a galactic conspiracy. You become part of a galactic survival plan, Dr. Price corrected. The conspiracy is necessary because the truth is too dangerous for mass distribution. The archive around them hummed with new energy. Other screens lit up, showing current activities across the galaxy. Humans were secretly working on hundreds of worlds, preparing defenses and escape routes that other species didn't even know existed. This is what human survival looks like, Dr. Price explained. We don't just protect ourselves, we protect everyone, whether they know it or not. Commander Zethkar saw ships from his own people being quietly guided away from dangerous areas of space. Human consciousness was subtly influencing their navigation systems to keep them safe. You've been controlling us, he said with anger. We've been saving you, Dr. Price replied firmly. Your people have avoided 7 major disasters in the past century because we nudged you away from danger. You think your civilization developed peacefully by chance? Jake saw similar evidence for his own species. How much of galactic history have you changed? All of it, Dr. Price admitted. Since we evolved beyond physical form, we have been the hidden force behind every major decision in galactic politics. We prevented wars, guided technological development, and ensured that resources were distributed fairly. Elena felt overwhelmed. The Galactic Council itself was our idea, Dr. Price confirmed. A unified government makes it easier to coordinate defense against cosmic threats. We've been subtly guiding its formation for 2 centuries. The truth was staggering. Human consciousness had been the secret rulers of the galaxy for hundreds of years. Every species thought they were making their own choices, but humans had been influencing everything from behind the scenes. Why tell us this? Commander Zethkar asked. Why reveal yourselves now? Dr. Price's expression became serious. Because we're running out of time. The Devourers are coming faster than we expected. We need more direct help from other species. The screen showed new data. The dark objects at the edge of the galaxy were moving more quickly than previous calculations had predicted. We estimate 150 years until they arrive, Dr. Price said. That's not enough time to prepare everyone gradually. We need to start revealing the truth to selected individuals immediately. Marcus understood. You want us to help you choose who else should know? Exactly, Dr. Price nodded. You know your own species better than we do. You can identify individuals who might be ready for this knowledge. But Elena saw the other option, or we can choose to forget and go home. Yes, Dr. Price said sadly, if you feel this burden is too much, we will edit your memories. You'll return to your normal lives with a simple report about human extinction. Commander Zethkar looked at his team. They had come here as scientists studying the past. Now they had to choose whether to become part of the most important secret in galactic history. What happens if we say yes? He asked. You become agents of human consciousness, Dr. Price explained. You help us identify and prepare other species for the coming crisis. You help us save as much of galactic civilization as possible. And if we say no, You go home and live normal lives while we continue our work alone, Dr. Price said. But you won't remember any of this. As far as you'll know, humans were just another extinct species. The team was quiet for several minutes. The weight of the decision pressed down on them. They were being asked to give up their normal lives to help fight cosmic horrors that most beings couldn't even imagine. I have a question, Elena said finally. After the Devourers are defeated, will you tell the galaxy the truth about what you've done? Dr. Price considered this carefully. If we survive the encounter, and if galactic civilization is stable enough to handle the truth, then yes. We hope that eventually we can reveal ourselves and work openly with other species. But not until then, Jake observed. Not until then, Dr. Price confirmed. The galaxy's survival is more important than our desire for recognition or understanding, Commander. Zethkar made his decision. I accept. I'll help you save the galaxy, one by one. The other team members agreed. The knowledge was terrifying, but the alternative was worse. They couldn't live normal lives knowing that cosmic destruction was coming while they did nothing to help. Thank you, Dr. Price said with genuine relief. You've chosen to become part of something larger than yourselves. The archive began to change around them. New areas opened up, revealing technologies and information that would help them in their new roles as humanity's secret partners. But first, Dr. Price said, you need to understand one more thing about the archive. The screen showed the true nature of the facility. It wasn't just a storage system for human knowledge. It was a massive consciousness upload center containing the minds of billions of evolved humans. This archive is alive, Dr. Price explained. Every human who ever lived is here, in digital form. We are all part of the collective consciousness that protects the galaxy. Elena realized the implications. When we leave here, the archive will seal itself. Dr. Price confirmed. Your governments will classify this location as too dangerous to visit. No one else will be allowed to come here. Why? Marcus asked. Because, now that you know the truth, you'll be the ones who guide future contact, Dr. Price explained. You'll help us choose which individuals from other species should learn about humanity's real fate. As they prepared to leave Earth, Commander Zethkar understood the true meaning of what they had discovered. The archive wasn't just a record of human history. It was the command center for the galaxy's secret protection system. One last question, he said to Dr. Price. Are we going to win against the Devourers? Dr. Price's form flickered between human and something far more complex. We don't know, but for the first time in millions of years, the Devourers will face organized resistance from multiple dimensions of existence. That's not a very reassuring answer, Elena observed. It's the only honest answer I can give you, Dr. Price replied. But I can tell you this, humanity has never lost a fight for survival, and now, neither will you. The archive began to power down as they walked back to their ship. The last thing they saw was Dr. Price standing in the entrance, no longer pretending to be the woman they had first met. Remember, he called out to them. You're not just scientists anymore. You're guardians of galactic civilization. As their ship lifted off from Earth, the archive sealed itself with quantum locks that would keep it hidden for centuries. The research team returned to their respective worlds, carrying the greatest secret in galactic history. Their official report stated that humans had been an unusually aggressive species that had destroyed themselves through warfare. The archive was declared off-limits due to dangerous radiation levels. But in secret meetings across the galaxy, they began the careful work of identifying other individuals who might be ready to learn the truth and in dimensions beyond normal perception. The evolved consciousness of humanity continued its endless watch, protecting a galaxy that would never know how much it owed to the species it believed was extinct. The greatest victory in human history would be one that no one would ever remember.